Awesome. All right, so we're joined with Joel for this video testimony. Joel's one of the early kind of adopters or testers of the sort of Craftsman4cash method, which was using his woodworking skills to try out this side hustle to build things and to sell them, just starting on Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, Joel, thanks for coming on, and we'll get into some of your experience with using your woodworking skills to build something as a side hustle and then selling these things locally. So I guess first off, how did you kind of get into this? Why did you want to try this as a side hustle? And yeah, what kind of background did you have to think that maybe you could do something with this this kind of furniture route?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on here. So I started off as a home builder, worked in construction for a number of years, and eventually transitioned out of that business and was doing some other trades. But I had all these tools, and I needed some extra cash, so I was looking around online and looking on Pinterest. Pinterest was a big one for me, and just seeing different designs and different ways to make money, and started realizing, oh, maybe there's a bit of a market for this. So I was inspired by your Craftsman4cash, and I went and took a look and said, hey, you know what, it might not be bars that I'm making, but there's definitely people that'll pay money for handcrafted furniture. So I went online, I found some pictures that I thought, hey, maybe I could make this, and I threw them up on Facebook Marketplace and refreshed the ad every day, and started getting some messages, which was really cool to see. And it really didn't take long, and from there it was finding that right price, scheduling all the jobs in, and really just learning as I went. So one thing I learned right off the bat was, yeah, a great picture helped a lot. It really drew the eyes, and not something that's just sitting in your garage, but a nice table sitting in a dining room will definitely get some traction. And then from there, I copied the picture. I made it very clear that, oh, this, I didn't make this, but this is what I can make.
Yeah.
And was very transparent with that. And as soon as I got my own pictures, I threw those up, made sure they were nice pictures in a dining room. And yeah, from there, it took off even more. I was able to give exact dimensions of the table in the picture, because they were mine, and I built them. And from there, I was able to start to grow it a little bit more. And for me, it started from pretty much nothing. I had a few tools, but just hand tools basically. So I had to go out to Home Depot and get a table saw and a chop saw. But from the pricing, I was able to pay off the tools in one job pretty much.
That's
and now I have those tools forever, and they made me a ton more money afterwards. Yeah. So I was just building them in my living room and on my back deck, and much to the chagrin of the other guys in the house, as the living room turned into a workshop. But literally, like, you can find the space, and it ended up working out. So
yeah, that's great. And I'll just wind back quickly to how did you settle on the first product that you were going to sell? Sounds like it was a table. And I know your story, so I know that's what you ended up doing. But how did you kind of pick that first product? And then, yeah, how much did you have to spend on tools? How much was that first sale for? Just kind of take us through, yeah, that first initial proof of concept.
So for me,
I guess first off, why the table? Like, how did you pick your product?
Yeah, so for the table, it was a pretty simple design. I went with a rustic farmhouse style. So the legs of the table and the tabletop are obviously the main aspects, but the legs aren't very intricate. The whole idea is that it's very, very solid looking and blocky. But there's no spindly legs or anything super complicated that you need high-end tools for. So I went for a simple design that was easy to replicate. And then from there, because I saw so many pictures of it and styles of it online, I realized there's probably a market for it.
Mhm.
And these days, it seems like the modern rustic seems to be a popular style. And yeah, I hit a bit of a niche there. So I was able to just do the farmhouse style table and bench, and really dial in that design and that style, and it seemed to pay off in the end. I spent probably about, it was several hundred in tools, but within a couple jobs I was selling them. I was way underselling the tables at first, and it was just part of the learning process. I wanted to generate some traffic and get some interest and see if the proof of concept would work. But it definitely helped for sure, because there was a lot of people that I think at that price. So I priced the tables at 600 and the benches at 150. And it generated a lot of traffic. And I think some people were skeptical even because it seemed pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So even just raising your prices a little, I found would help credibility. But yeah, so from there, it might not have been one job. It was probably a couple jobs to pay off the tools. But as soon as I posted it, I had 3 or 4 orders right away.
Wow.
And then I found that the biggest problem was trying to schedule them all, because I was doing other jobs and doing this on the side. And yeah, I had 4 orders that I had to get through. And I had told them like, oh, not knowing how long it would take, like, oh, like 4 weeks or so. And then once I got into it, I realized, okay, maybe I misjudged that a little bit. But as I did more tables, I got a lot faster at it, and was able to start speeding that up. And yeah, so yeah, it was about 600 for the table, 150 for the bench. And all it was just pine from a hardware store, like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. And I loaded it up into the back of my Honda Civic, folded the seat down, and I could get 8-foot pieces from the trunk to the windshield. So I'd be sagging the bottom as I drove back down the highway. And so from there, I was a little bit restricted by dimensions. I couldn't do much more than 8 feet. So which, I mean, it was good. I would just say like a 5x3 table with a bench, 2 benches. And even being that specific, I found that there was a niche too. Sometimes it's one of those things you could say, oh, I don't have the truck, I don't have all the tools to get it done. But you can use whatever you have. Like I could have used a handsaw, really, and would have taken a bit longer, but there is a way to do it.
Mhm.
So anyhow, so I sold a bunch of those, and then yeah, did pretty well on them. Again, they took a lot longer than I expected, but it was just extra time for me. It was time after work or on a weekend, and time I could have been watching Netflix or playing video games. I was able to make a little extra cash. So one thing I found was that yeah, one the time, but that feeling of satisfaction of making that sale when the customers finally got to see their product after all those weeks of having to keep push it. But yeah, when they saw it, they loved it. And it's funny knowing exactly what it took to build it and knowing it wasn't that complicated. But then you put some nice stain on it. You do some nice paint, sand it down really nice. You can make some regular wood from Home Depot look amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty satisfying to see the looks on their faces. And then 50%, at least 50% of the people asked for more products and what else I did,
Oh,
which was really nice. Um, and then from there I transitioned a little bit into some smaller projects, ladder shelves and stools,
mhm.
like stools for kids in bathrooms. And so I did a few of those just to diversify a little bit and not have to spend, a
Yeah.
full week on a project. And again, those got great reviews as well. And the people were really happy. And I think a big thing for them was handcrafted, handmade furniture.
Yeah.
And they know exactly where it comes from. You build a relationship with them. And yeah, it was a great experience with a lot of great results. So yeah, all thanks to the inspiration from what you were doing, Benny. And yeah, I mean, it's always something I know I can go back to too. Raise the prices, make it a little more worth my while. And yeah, something I got in the back pocket if I ever need. I had to stop because it took too much time with my full-time job.
Yeah.
But those days where I was just working on the tables, if I was making enough to make it my full-time job, I'd be like, man, this is pretty awesome. It's pretty relaxed. You get some music going. You're building this table with your own hands for somebody else, and you're gonna, it's gonna be a meaningful part of their life, a center of their kitchen and their home.
Yeah.
It was pretty satisfying. So
Yeah, that's so cool. And my video actually froze up on this end, just my screen actually. So I'm not sure if I'm still coming through, but
yeah, I can still hear you.
okay.
Still frozen though.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's really cool. And what I liked about your story is, yeah, you didn't have a workshop to start with. You really just, your Honda Civic and some of the tools you had, and you invested a little bit, but you started to see some traction pretty quickly. And I know I talked to you about how you started to realize pretty quickly how you could raise your prices. And I know one thing that I found as well was, yeah, at first you might be, calculating your costs and the hourly wage you're making, and you might think, this needs to be better, but it's really something you can just keep improving. I know, like with raising the price, like you said, as soon as you get some good feedback and you're making a good product, and then also just getting faster, getting a better system down. I know for me, as I got a system down, some of my projects, I cut the time in half, or even more as I kept going. And so that hourly wage, if you calculate it that way, just started to go up. So no, it's awesome. And you have a great story. And just a couple things to give people a better idea of kind of how it went was, I don't know if you remember from when you posted your first, product till you got paid. What was that timeline? I know you said the tables take a little bit longer, the bigger projects, but what was that like? And yeah, from kind of when you got started posting the ad to getting paid, what was that timeline like for you?
For me, it was about first profit was probably about 4 weeks.
Okay.
So I posted the ad within 2 days. I had signed 4 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it took a while because I was coming home after work, and then because I didn't have a workshop,
Mm-hmm.
I had to bring my tools outside and inside every single day. So there's probably about an hour, half an hour to an hour of setup
Yeah.
and takedown every day. And if you're coming home at the end of the day and you're working with what's left of the daylight, it really limits your time. So
Yeah.
It took me 4 weeks, in part because of things like that. But if you have a space, if you have a garage where you can set everything up, and you're not doing it in your living room, you will, you'll have more time to do it. So all total, I spent about, with painting, sanding, staining, building, and even getting the materials, it was all up about somewhere between like 18 to 20 hours.
Mhm.
So if you put in 2 good days, you could build the table. For
Yeah.
me, it took so long because it'd be 2 hours here, an
Yeah.
hour here, trying to work around existing things in my schedule.
Mhm.
But yeah, about 20 hours. And it was one of those things where if I had a day off, I could make some really good progress, and realize, oh, if I'm working, two 10-hour days to get this done, I'm making more than I would make at my regular job. So
Yeah. And
there is that potential there.
yeah, and that's even with your prices on the lower end. I mean, those tables
Yes, yeah,
were pretty nice, and you started them at, I mean, like you said, 600, but I would guess you could probably get, I know, Pat, the other guy we're going to be talking to, he got his prices up to, a few $1,000s after a little
nice.
bit, or similar kind of thing. So, it's just something you can keep improving, but, that's awesome. I mean, I think we covered everything there, and like, it's a great story, like you said, and especially if someone does have the time, maybe someone's out of work, or they already
Yeah,
even have some of the tools, they have the setup. Like, I know some things I've done and posted, like, you're getting paid within a week, even if you can just rhyme it off, and yeah, so it depends on the project, but it can be pretty quick.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
there was one other thing I remember chatting to you at one point when you were looking for more orders, and you talked about boosting an ad, which is something that I'm going to get into more kind of in the course. But what was your experience with the Facebook Marketplace ads, and your experience kind of boosting those, which is like a paid option for people who don't know?
Yes, yeah. So I found that the ads started to, when you first post it, there's like an initial rush of messages, and then as the time goes on, if you don't re-up it, then it starts to sink down the list and doesn't
Yep.
get as much traction. But one thing you can do is you can pay Facebook to boost that ad, and just get it in front of more eyes.
Mhm.
And it also, you can choose certain groups that you're a part of, that you think that might also, have some interest in that.
Mhm.
So I think it was like $4 a week, all the way up to like $20 a week. You could choose the pricing model.
Mhm.
Um, and initially I didn't really want to give Facebook any money. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just grow this organically. But sometimes you do need to bite the bullet a little bit, and get that help to get you that extra little bit of traction. And I found it worked really well. Like, I would boost an ad and get 4 to 5 times as many views.
Mhm.
And from there you sign a bunch of jobs.
Yeah.
Whereas before you could have gone through a week of not much action. So that was really helpful. And at, $3 a week to $10 a week, if you sign one job, you can easily cover that in what you make. But if you sign 4 or 5, it's a drop in the bucket. So
Yeah. So
that
good.
was definitely worth it. And the tools that Facebook does have on Marketplace are helpful for sellers to help generate traction. So I definitely recommend giving that a shot if organic traction starts to slow down. But it's yeah, I was a bit reluctant, but it paid off in the end. So
Yeah, that's cool. And I found similar results. I mean, sometimes it depends on the product, but it is distinguishable from other boosted posts, which I know, depending on what you're doing on Facebook, sometimes boosting a post is just throwing your money away. But in Facebook Marketplace specifically, it does seem to work well. So I can echo that for sure. But that's awesome, Joel. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on here. And we'll just finish off with kind of your number one tip for someone who's maybe, got some handy skills. They might have some tools or access to some tools and they want to make, start making a few $100 extra a week. Yeah. What would your number one tip for them be?
Number one tip would probably be go on somewhere, like a Pinterest or an Etsy, see what other people are doing, find something that you think you could build pretty easily, and go out and just give it a shot. The worst that can happen is maybe you're down a little bit of money. But you will find someone to buy it eventually. And maybe you don't make the most money, but it's just something to get the ball rolling. So just try, dial in the process, and eventually you can very easily turn it into something that's making, 500 bucks a week, which is, that's life-changing money.
Yep.
It's an extra 25 grand a year. So yeah, it's just go out there and try and see what you can do, and you'd probably surprise yourself.
Love it. Thanks so much, Joel. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.